Now I think it's time we should go ahead and work on this area underneath the sight. It's got a lot of things going on there, so we're going to have to try and find what that base foundational piece is and build that up first. So I'll go to the side view here and hit the Z key, and let's take a look at it here. It looks to me like there is a foundational piece here. This piece here, it goes right along under here, has an extrusion out of it here, and then continues on up to here. And if we take a look at it in the 3/4 view, I'm going to press Control up arrow to take a look at it here. And if we look at it here, we can see that here's that extrusion, and that this piece is actually an extrusion holding a cylindrical shape through it. So here, let me hit Control up arrow, and now I'm going to hover over this view and hit Control up arrow again, and we can see that here's that piece with that cylinder going through it here. So this is really kind of a good view of what that piece looks like. I think this is the piece we should build up first before we begin adding any of the plates and outside pieces on it. So I'll go ahead and bring the cursor up into this area and press Shift A and bring in a cube. And this is going to be the cube that we'll use to kind of block out that shape. I'll go to face mode and select a face here. And I'll go ahead and grab this one and just drag it straight back. And I'll grab this one and drag it straight up. I'll go right to about here because these look like they extrude out at a different location than the full piece. I'll bring this up right to the bottom of that piece there. And since we're in kind of a perspective view here, it's difficult to get a sense of how tall this should be. I'm going to go with that right there for now. I'll go ahead and tumble around and see how wide it is. It looks like from the top view that it's about as wide as that piece we created first. So I think this actually doesn't look too bad. I may scale it in just a hair in the X, but not a lot. Something like that. All right, let's go back to the side view now. And let's go ahead and insert some edge loops so we can extrude this piece off here. I'll insert an edge loop here right at the base of that, maybe something like this. And we also need to tumble around and insert a couple of edge loops to get the thickness of that piece right here. So I'll hit Control R and scroll the mouse wheel and add 2 edge loops here. I'll scale them out in the X till we get something that's about as thick as those pieces. I'll go to face mode and select those 2 faces, and let's go back and extrude these out like so. And now we're going to want that piece to kind of curve just a little bit. I don't think I need a whole lot of curve there, but what I can do is press Control R and add maybe 3 edge loops here. So now what we can do is go to vertex mode, and we'll just select with the B key this group of vertices and this group of vertices, so you can see them here. Now what I'll do is I'll just bring them back a bit, and then I'll do the same thing with the next 2 here. Something like that. That'll give us just the impression of that curve there. Like that. So now let's work on creating this piece right here, that extrusion that's coming out. I'll go ahead and insert a couple of edge loops, maybe one right here to frame that up, and one right here to frame it up here. And then I'll switch to face mode, and with the B key again, I will click and drag and just select these faces right here on either side, like that. Now let's extrude those. I'll press E and click, and then I'll hit S and X and scale those out. Now it looks to me like this area here is a little bit wider than this area back here. So I can press the C key to turn on the circle select tool and just click and drag these faces here, these faces here. Looks like I've got an extra one up here. I'll middle mouse button click that to deselect it. Now I'll tumble around here and hit the C key again and select these, and I'll select these as well. Now if we hit S and X, we can scale them out. And I'll hit the C and middle mouse button click again to deselect these, deselect these, and now I can press S and X and scale these out just a little bit like that. So I get kind of a wider area up here than I do down there. We have this piece here. It looks like we should extrude that out as well. I think I can see that here. So let's go ahead and get that. I'll go into edit mode. And since we widen this out, we don't have a straight edge that we can use to get this edge here. So what I can do is go ahead and insert some edge loops here. And I'll insert an edge loop over here. And I'm just pressing the Enter key twice to ensure that they pop in the exact center of this face. And I'll then take this edge here. And I'll take this edge here, and I'll just scale them until I get these edges to be parallel. So I'll go up to the top view, hit the Z key, hit S and X, and then I'll scale these out until they're about parallel like so. There we go. Now we can insert two edge loops here and scale them out in the Y, S, Y. Like so. And now if I select these faces here, I can just give these a little bit of an extrusion straight up. Now let's work on that top piece right up here. This piece here, and it has these strips on it. Let's zoom into it over here and see what we can see. It looks like it's got some edges on it here. So let's go ahead and create a new cube. I'll scale it down, scale it in the Z, and bring it up here. I'll grab this face and pull it down to about where it needs to be, like so. And then I'll grab these faces here and pull them forward, and this face here and pull it back, like so. Now let's tumble around and see how wide this is. Looks like we could scale that in a bit, and then perhaps insert an edge loop around here. Make it a little bit smaller there. And then we could grab this face and scale these out. So let's hit E and S and X and scale these out a bit like that. Now let's work on these pieces right up here. It looks like we could just place cubes up here and then use the array modifier to add them all along the top here. So I'll press Shift A, another cube. Let's scale it down, and let's bring it up here and try and get this in place and in the proper shape. So I'll go back to my side view and hit that Z key, and I'll move it over here, and let's try and get one of these in place. So it looks like I could bring it in about like this and scale it out in the X. It looks like it extends beyond that ridge there. And it also looks like that this face here could scale in the X, maybe come down just a bit like that. Maybe a little bit wide, so I'll scale it in the Y some. Let's try this. If I place this here, and let's use an array modifier to create duplicates of this all along this piece. So what I'll do is I'll come over here to the modifiers panel and click array. Let me move this up just a bit so we can see it. Now I'll change this. I'll put 0 in the X field and 1 in the Y field. And then I'll click and drag that and see what we have there. See how far apart that needs to be. So I'll click and drag in that field again and just pull that back just a little bit, like that. And you can hold the Shift key down while you click and drag, and it will move an object slower. So if I click and drag, you can see it moves pretty quick, but if I hold the Shift key down, then it'll move quite a bit slower and in smaller increments. So I'll put that right there. And now I have the count at 2. Let's increase the count like this and put them all along here. There we go. Now it looks like it's a little too much. Maybe let's reduce the count 1 here and then click and drag to bring that back like that. Once again, I'm holding that Shift key. All right, let's take a look at it. Not too bad. Now let's go ahead and add a subdivision surface modifier to this because it looks like they've got kind of rounded edges here. So I'll come over here to the Add modifier and add subdivision surface. I'll increase the views to 2, hit Smooth Shading over here under the Tools tab, and I'll tab into Edit mode and begin adding a few edge loops here. Maybe something like this. And let's put 2 in here and scale those in the Y. Let's also put a couple down here horizontally. I'll go ahead and add 3 for that. And there we go. Those are looking a little bit better. Let's go ahead and add a subdivision surface modifier to this piece here. And I'll go through the same process. And I'll add one in here. I'll then press Alt and Shift and click this one and scale these out in the X just a bit. I'll add one up here and one down here. And then finally we'll need to add some edge loops to this piece as well. So I'll add a subdivision surface modifier and once again see how we can tighten up these edges. So in the next few videos, we'll begin adding the pieces that go on top of this, as well as creating the scope.